Welcome to the AI in Procurement podcast. I'm your host, Srijan Kumar, the CEO of Lighthouz AI. I'm excited to take you all on a journey with me as I talk to world leaders in procurement about how AI, generative AI, and agentic AI are transforming procurement, and how organizations and leaders like yourself can make the most out of this revolutionary technology. In the very first episode, I'm excited to welcome Tanya Wade. If you work in procurement, you probably have come across Tanya's LinkedIn posts on procurement. Tanya has been doing procurement for over 15 years, having spent most of her career in procurement consultancy at leading companies like Accenture, Deloitte, and now KPMG. She was also leading procurement for Adidas and PZ Customs. This podcast is hosted by Lighthouz AI. Lighthouz is a Y Combinator-backed startup building AI agents for procurement excellence. I had a great time talking to Tanya, and I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here.
Amazing. So let's start with a very simple question. Did you choose procurement or did procurement choose you?
No one chooses procurement, unfortunately. Like everyone else, I fell into procurement. I was recruited right after university because of my language skills. So for anyone that doesn't know, I'm Spanish. So I was recruited to manage the Spanish market for a particular FMCG company. And then it just kind of went from there.
Awesome. So you have been in procurement consultancy for a majority of your career. And recently, you posted about AI and procurement. I'd love to hear your thoughts where you see companies taking the most ROI of using AI in their procurement processes.
Okay, where they can potentially make the most,
Sure.
bang for the buck, as the saying goes, is in areas where you have a lot of data. So your standard areas like spend analysis, for example, supplier risk is quite a hot topic. Supplier risk predictions can be done with AI. A very old school one is contract management. So contract management in anything like automation of the contract management, flagging up risks, actually drafting contracts from scratch. So anywhere where you have quite a lot of data that can be analyzed, you can implement AI.
Awesome. So for a leader listening to this particular podcast right now, a procurement leader, what advice would you have? Which of these many different topics that you've mentioned, where should they get started? Or how should they
start with your problems. Don't start with the worst thing you can do is to start with saying, let's implement AI. Or let's see what AI can do. No, you start with figuring out what problems you have within your organization, whether there's lack of spend visibility or too many manual tasks or whatever your problem is. Then clean up your data. AI needs clean data. Without clean data, you can't do anything with AI. That's the most important thing. The next thing I recommend they do is start small. So start with a pilot project, because a lot of the issues with getting AI into procurement are around the business case and not getting the business case sign off because the C-suite can't see the ROI of that particular project. So with that small project, you can convince, is your case study, so to speak, to take up to the C-suite, to your CEO and your CFO to get that case approved. And then the other mistake that I see a lot happening is think about your processes. Automating up bad process isn't going to make you good. Sometimes you have to streamline and simplify as much as possible. So I always say in the golden triangle of technology, process, and people first, then process, then technology.
Amazing. I love the advice of people, process, and technology. And of course, with any new change, there's a big aspect of change management because any technological project can only be successful if people adopt to it and adopt it willingly. What's your advice for procurement leaders to handle change management and get everyone within their team on board?
So there is a lot of I guess people are quite scared about AI. In some cases, I think that it's going to replace the jobs. So it's a different type of change management that you would normally do with a standard transformation, where you would just try to change their hearts and minds and show them, look, this system is very pretty, it's going to help your life easier. With AI, you have to go the extra mile in convincing people that this is going to make the jobs quicker, better, easier, not going to replace them as well. I always say that a good change management program, it starts from day one, right? It starts from the moment you start selecting a vendor, an IT vendor, with your people sitting there in those meetings. Because otherwise, what tends to happen is usually a change management program is at the very end of a transformation. By then, people are just too scared of, don't really want to change, don't really want to do things differently, and it's too late. The system doesn't get used and get shelved. So start as early as possible and take people on that journey to change their hearts and minds of, what the system or the transformation can do.
Great advice. I'd like to follow up on that. And you have touched upon a very important topic over here. Is AI going to take my job? That is a fear that people have. So far, I have not seen any AI system taking, at least in procurement, anyone's job, because the procurement system, procure tech systems are not there yet. And I don't think it's going to take jobs. But what is your opinion, personal opinion on this? And how can procurement leaders specifically navigate that particular hurdle?
I was having a discussion with someone recently, actually, how AI automation is already taking purchasing jobs, but the reality is that purchasing, not procurement, purchasing as an organization hasn't disappeared. I was reading recently a CPA report, I think it was from Deloitte, which is the competition, but they were saying that only 80% of procurement teams globally feel themselves are digitally advanced. 18%, that's like next to nothing, right? And that's because technology is still slow to adopt. So can AI take jobs? Yes, absolutely. It can take all the lower end purchasing jobs. It can do it. It means that you have to upskill yourself to make sure that you are more strategic, that you're doing higher value tasks instead. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I'm frank with you. So
Absolutely, completely agree. The most repetitive, mundane tasks, the tactical tasks, let's say, can be automated eventually. But that would just, in my opinion, bring even more value to procurement teams, because then they can spend more time with the same resources. They can spend more time on strategic tasks rather than doing it in the tactical work. So,
sorry, I was going to add a comment. I keep hearing about zero-touch procurement, right? Which is like it's not a reality. It's not going to be a reality. It is real in some aspects, like purchasing, invoicing, but I don't think you're ever going to have like end-to-end zero-touch procurement. But it's nice to have something to aim for. But even if we were to get to that zero-touch procurement in the future, you will still need procurement people to manage the relationship aspect of the role, which is huge. So yeah, we're never going to disappear as a profession. I'm very confident of that.
100% agreed. You can do zero-touch purchasing, rather, not procurement, in some of the regular automatable tasks. Let's say MRO procurement or MRO purchasing. You just tell, let's say, an AI agent, hey, get me this and this, and it can find out these specific vendors and find who to get it from, and just create a PO, send it out, keep track. But that's a relatively small fraction of the task that a procurement team does. So completely agree that the procurement as a profession is not going anywhere. It's actually getting more strategic rather than being focused on tactical.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. I'd love to touch upon a couple of things that I've seen on your social media, as well as on other procurement professionals' social media posts. There's currently a job crunch in procurement going on, specifically at the leadership level. What advice do you have for people on the job market right now? How can they navigate this current situation?
I mean, it's tough. I have loads of friends, acquaintances that are currently in there. I think it's going to pass. So, this is not going to last forever. Spend the time upskilling yourself as much as possible. And especially about technology, because that's going to be the change maker, right? The procurement excellence roles are far and few between at the moment. I think that's going to change in the future. So spending the time and also form real connections with people rather than send loads of random CVs to to people. I think, I see myself like our recruitment colleagues are overloaded with CVs and requests and everything. Don't be one more person, make yourself a bit more special and get to know the company that you're going to be working for, you want to be working for.
Great advice. In terms of upskilling, there's of course, upskilling in terms of general technology, but I think the next 5 years of procurement is going to be a lot about AI and procurement, not just from the procurement perspective, but because the C-suite wants it. The C-suite is looking at all divisions, their sales, their
Hmm.
marketing, their other divisions, and seeing AI
Everywhere.
having so much impact in those divisions, they would expect procurement to take up AI as well. So for procurement professionals listening to us right now, how can they upskill specifically for into their AI journey?
So, controversially, perhaps, good AI can't be seen, so you can't train for it, right? I don't think anyone needs to train unless you're working in a procurement technology kind of role, like procurement excellence type of role. Hopefully, they don't have to train for that kind of thing because when you have automation in anywhere, it means you don't actually see it. It does it for you. It's easy. You press the button, it's done, right? So that's one type of AI. You have Gen AI. I mean, Gen AI is not difficult to use. It's very user friendly in general. Gen AI in procurement has huge value. It just is starting to have some momentum now. So you can, thanks to Gen AI, you can create RFPs from scratch. You can create contracts. You can create supplier emails without doing much to it. It's fantastic. I wish I had that when I started my career, and I was asking a million people, "Oh, do you have a template for this RFP?" You have to create things from zero. Now you don't. You have the luxury now being able to do that. The entry point to technology is next to nothing. Is conversational, obviously. So just use it. But it's not difficult. I think the people that have to learn more about AI are those in positions of a bit more power within procurement. So your heads of procurement, your CPOs, because they need to understand what the technology does to figure out whether it's going to resolve the problems that they have or not. That's a different kettle of fish to your standard procurement manager who's just using the technology. So a very different type of upskilling. I think that has to happen.
How would a leader in procurement, let's say CPO or director, VP, how should they go about upskilling themselves in AI? Because when they started, there was no AI in procurement. And now they're busy with their procurement day-to-day work and managing everything. What is, if you have any thoughts on the processes they can do, adapt, learn to get upskilled in AI?
It's a little bit like the same way that you would find an agency in procurement to do your marketing. You would find a supplier or a vendor to help you with AI. I don't expect a CPO. It helps when a CPO is knowledgeable of what's out there in the marketplace. And I'm going to tell you something, it's a minefield. It's not easy for any CPO. I mean, there's an acquaintance of mine, a friend of mine, James Meads, who does his incredible procurement technology landscapes for enterprise and smaller and medium enterprises. I mean, they're so complex. The landscape of technology is so complex. It's difficult for your average CPO, VP of procurement to learn everything there is out there. Because even if you just see the logo, you still have to figure out what does the technology do? What problems does it resolve, right? So I would say rely on your IT vendors, so companies like us, KPMG, that help you simplify that and figure out whether you need something built specifically for you, or whether there's something out there, a tool that can actually solve your problem. I can easily integrate into your system, so that's another thing. There's a lot of stuff out there. You don't want to piss off IT and create a very complex systems landscape, right? You need to ensure that everything integrates seamlessly, because otherwise you create data silos. And that's one of the challenges as well of introducing AI. When you have little data silos, if you are not perfectly integrating those, you can't really take advantage of any AI that you implement.
Amazing. Great points, Tanya. So, what trends are you seeing in AI, generative AI, and now AI agents shaping procurement right now and in the next 5 years?
So trends, some of the stuff that I mentioned already. So the Gen AI stuff that is just start to come into place. So in SAP world, which is my my home. Joule has been introduced into Ariba and also into S4HANA, and delivering value in things like creating RFPs and contracts from scratch and emails and anything you want to ask is brilliant. And I know that compared to products are also doing the same thing. So that's one of the trends I see, and that's going to take over, hopefully. I was talking earlier about end-to-end process automation of zero-touch procurement that starts from sourcing all the way to invoicing. I think that will happen eventually. I know I've seen some pilots and some companies doing things. So I think that in the future that will actually happen, not just in the purchasing bit, everywhere connectedly. And I don't know, other things like AI for scenario planning. So what if scenarios, for example, where you have a lot of very complex risks. So in ESG in general, there are loads of use cases in ESG where you can apply. So like carbon tracking across the whole organization. So definitely more usage of AI in ESG.
Awesome. And how do you envision the role of procurement professionals changing as AI becomes more integrated into everyone's day-to-day job?
So we said earlier, purchasing, I think, is going to evaporate. It's going to disappear completely, which is, I think, is a good thing. So there's going to be more focus on strategic decision making, strategic tasks, more cross collaboration. I think not just because you'll have the time to actually collaborate more with your suppliers and your stakeholders as well, but I think when you start making decisions around AI, you have to do them jointly with finance, IT, and everyone else. So I feel like it will kind of get together, all blend together. And there's going to be new skill sets emerging in the next few years. So the people that get AI and the people that don't get AI, that's going to be quite, around analytics as well. So all the skill sets hopefully going to sharpen up and be more important and become part of procurement roles.
Amazing. Yeah. So for people listening to this podcast, you're listening because this is an AI and procurement podcast. So you better be in the side that knows AI, not in the side that does not in the future.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So as we discussed earlier, AI is getting into each business unit of an organization. How can companies best prepare to leverage AI in specifically their procurement, sourcing procurement processes or procure-to-pay processes?
So how can companies, sorry, could you repeat the question? How can companies
best prepare now to be in a position to leverage AI in their source-to-pay, procure-to-pay processes?
Fix your data, first of all. This is the first thing. Clean your data, get it ready. If you have data silos, integrate your data. It doesn't have to be through an ERP, use middleware, whatever systems you have in place to integrate that. Get your employees on board. There's also cost concerns. You can't forget about cost concerns because AI tools can be very expensive. Make sure you have a very good business case in place where you have you're able to measure the ROI. And sometimes it's very easy, right? It's hard dollar that you're saving with these tools because you're releasing people from their tasks. There you go. This is a saving. So have your business case very clear. And remember that it's not fully, it's not touch-free AI. You still have to train it. Mm-hmm. You still need people to, you still need human oversight and some strategic thinking. AI is not intelligent yet. So yeah, just remember that you still need a lot of resources to be able to implement an AI project. So
that's absolutely right. So you have helped a lot of companies in their procurement journey. What challenges have you seen companies face when they're adopting AI in procurement, and how can they overcome them?
I'm going to repeat myself, so apologies for that. The data thing and the change management thing are the biggest ones I've seen. Change management is starting from the beginning, starting as an afterthought, some training, and then they have no adoption. They spend all this money on these tools, and then they don't get adopted, right? So that's a bit of a waste. And the data piece of don't implement something and clean your data at the same time. Clean your data first, then do that. Then do that afterwards. So I know it's repeating myself, but is the clear ones are the biggest issues.
So is change management the responsibility of the procurement team or the procurement leader, or part of the responsibility also lies on the IT vendor that's providing the AI technology for the procurement solutions?
So there is usually a change management team dedicated to that. But if you ask me, the CPO should be hand in hand working with the change management team on a daily basis to understand what else they can do. Because ultimately the communication has to come from him or her, not change management, right? And he's the one that has to take their teams, that have to take their teams on the journey of convincing them how this is going to make everything better and easier and saving so much time and deliver so many more savings, reduce the number of questions they get from stakeholders, whatever it is. So he should be actually doing the execution. The strategy can come from somewhere else.
Absolutely.
So he could be she, actually. I've been a she, so.
Sure. I think I would add to that and say that part of the responsibility also lies in the AI vendor to make sure that their tool is easy enough to use, that there is less resistance from the end users. Because if it's overly complex, if you need like a month of training to use an AI system or even a week of training to use an AI system, people don't have that amount of time.
Yeah, yes, I always say that actually. That change management is two-part. One is convincing the employee or the end user, but second, it has to be easy to use. I say this all the time, actually, that if the system is not like you press a button and everything happens, then adoption is going to be harder. But then I was having a discussion with someone else the other day, how there are certain systems, not AI perhaps, where that get used because there is kind of, you can use the carrot or you can use a stick. So you can tell the employee, look, this is going to make your life easier, and if you do this, I'll give you a bonus, whatever. Or you can use a stick and you can tell them you have to use the system. You have to use the system every time you do your HR reviews or whatever it is, right? And that works actually in corporations. So.
Yeah, I mean.
But I agree with you.
I mean, in my opinion, there's between the carrot and the stick, there is an obvious choice, if possible, to make. But every organization is different and cultural organization is different. So, pick whatever suits you best, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are coming up towards the end of this episode. So I want to close with one final question. Tanya, personally, what excites you the most about the future of procurement?
So the thing that excites me the most is what frustrates me the most as well. And is that there's so much potential untapped, so much potential. You know, when I read that 18% of teams are advanced digitally, only 18% is like, oh, there's like so much potential in there, so many things that we can do better. We can make the job easier. We can make more money from it. We can get more recognition, bring more value to the business from it. I do think like we're in the tipping. I'm hoping that we're in a tipping point, and at some point, it's like, you know, it's still going to happen. But I tell you what, in the past 10 years, I haven't seen enough change to say, look, this is, you know. So I'm excited about the potential, but I'm kind of like, watch this space.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts on this. I would like to add, I think one thing I've seen procurement professionals conflate a lot is ERP systems being technology. I mean, it is technology, but it's not. I mean, it's it's your system of record, but it's not AI technology, right? I think as companies become more AI advanced, AI procurement as a function needs to become more AI advanced as well. And personally, that what excites me about the future of procurement as well. Amazing, Tanya, so much for sharing your thoughts on procurement and AI with us today.
A pleasure. Yeah, love being here. Thanks for the great questions as well.
Amazing. Well, thanks to the listeners for tuning in today, and stay tuned for the next episode.